This is Impact on BBC World News. I'm Yalda Hakim. The death toll from a huge prison fire in Iran on Saturday has risen from 4 to 8. The blaze broke out at the Evin prison in Tehran, with the country's judiciary saying those who died were prisoners who'd been jailed for robbery. Rights groups have called for an independent international investigation as witnesses reported gunfire and tear gas during the fire. I'm joined now by the human rights researcher and writer Azadeh Pourzand. Thank you, Azadeh John, for joining us here on the programme. I mean, when we talk about Evin, it is no ordinary prison.
Right, exactly. Evin is a notorious prison where I think many of us have kind of grown up knowing about it, have had loved ones in those prisons, in the different wards of the prison. And in a way, Evin is symbolic of how horrific Iranian prisons are. There are prisons that are even more remote and more horrific, in a way, if you can even say that, in the country. And the government uses this technique of moving prisoners, especially political prisoners, around as a way of confusing their families, punishing them, and sometimes from ward to ward and so on. So. Yes, I guess it's no mystery to Iranians and to the world that Evin is quite a difficult place for any prisoner, ordinary or political, to be, and that it's symbolic of the country's general condition of prisoners across the country. So it's not only Evin in a way.
And then, of course, those dramatic pictures at the weekend, Evin yes. On fire. I was hearing contacts, friends, people I know on social media saying this is the heart of Tehran, of Iran, with intellectuals, writers, dissidents, activists, political prisoners, as you say, all housed here in Evin.
Exactly. I mean, when I saw that footage, I haven't myself been to Evin prison, but like you were saying, I know so many people who have been in Evin prison, who are right now in Evin prison, and I can't tell you how I felt. I just really felt difficulty breathing, and it was this odd feeling like it's my home.
Because of course your father was in the prison.
Yes, both my parents were in Evin prison. My father was very much tortured physically also, and put in they have some very scary wards that are sort of run by the intelligence service and the judiciary. He has been, I think, across the prison throughout the years, and just the feeling that that whole place is on fire. On Twitter, many refer to Evin prison as the best university of the country. I mean, it has the intellect of the country there. But I also want to highlight here that whether or not you're a political prisoner, your rights matter as a prisoner. I mean, they keep saying, for example, like those killed, and we still don't know any of their identity, are the ordinary prisoners who would have, who are the thieves or so on. But the country lacks fair trial, and any prisoner has to have a dignified life in custody. And so I think it's important when we distinguish between political and ordinary not to forget that they share equal rights.
Of course, basic human rights that need Absolutely. To be given to every and any person kept behind bars. But just tell me what your father told you about his days in that prison. What was the experience? I mean, we hear horrendous stories of what people go through inside Evin.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things I remember he told me is even the good days when he was in the solitary confinement. That by itself, even when they don't do anything to you, the solitary confinement is a form of torture, and that prisoners lose a sense of time. What time of the day it is, what time of the year it is, a lack of access. For example, he experienced that to the bathroom, and with that, a lot of physical conditions, a lot of humiliation.
We're looking at images of him now and of your mother. You said that he was in his 70s when they took him away.
Absolutely, and I think he's not the only one. There are a lot of older prisoners, and the question here is the the conditions in the detention. I mean, access to medical facilities, access to sanitary water, to proper food, to lawyer, I mean, so on, everything. So they essentially rob you of your dignity. A lot of the times they try to tell you that you're forgotten nobody is talking about you. Even the most famous political prisoners, at points, they think nobody is talking about them. And the prison is made in such a secluded way that you're so isolated from really like the rest of the world. And they wake you up at random times of the night for interrogations. Like right now, for example, there are some of the recent detainees, some of them are in a place that is called the School of Evin, which is like sort of like some kind of an auditorium or so, that they have educational classes, but also that's where the interrogation of political prisoners, one of the places that happens. So they really, really mess with your sense of space, with your sense of time, and then gradually with all the basics of what human dignity entails, including sanitary, including the ability to step out to go to the bathroom, and including just having access to equipped clinics.
I mean, and this is inside a notorious prison, but we're seeing horrific treatment of protesters, young women, young girls out in the streets. Verified material that the BBC is verifying through BBC Persian of the treatment of protesters. Where do you think this is heading? Do you feel this is different this time?
I mean, I think that, as you know, the resistance of Iranian women and people, I think, hopefully is now known to the world. I see it as a climactic act in a continuous, years of struggles against really this tyrannic regime. But at the same time, I think it's a monumental time. It's a time where, the rights of women, the rights of other marginalized groups kind of are coalescing for a demand for a fundamental change. And this government doesn't shy away from violence. And, you see different forms of violence, whether it's, killing and shooting people on the street with like thousands of detainees, many of them we don't know where they are. And just keeping the population in this ambiguous form of, we don't know what's happening. We don't know, for example, even with Evin, because there is no independent investigative mechanism. We are basically in the dark. We are documenting as much as we can, but there is no internet, the VPNs are not working. And so I think violence will continue, but so will resistance.
Resistance, indeed. Azadeh, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. That was Azadeh Pourzand, human rights watcher and writer, joining us there.